What's going on, Raider Nation? Welcome to another True Raider podcast. So today, man, there's like a lot of things that are just stirring around, and at least today we have a new signing, right? And so today, and I want to move into this. Let me go ahead and share the screen because we're going ahead and adding to our offensive line. Give me 1 second. All right. So we added Cody Whitehair, right? And Cody Whitehair, right off the bat, the first thing that I thought was I saw a breakdown from Mitchell Renz at Chat Sports. He was talking about like the top players that he could see, being, uh, offensive linemen that the Raiders might sign. And Cody Whitehair was listed number 2 on that list, right? So I recognize the name only because of that. And so I didn't really know too much about him. If you look into his stat sheet, basically he came in the league at 2016 with the Bears, and he was a starter right out the gate. And if you look down the line, he started all games for most seasons until about 20 I don't know, it's like 2020 it started to kind of drop off a little bit, and we really show 2023 he only started 11 games. Now, this is a guy that only allowed 3 sacks. He had over 700 snaps, and he only caused 2 penalties. And I really feel like this is a good signing because we need to add some depth to our offensive line. And it really makes me wonder, what's the plan here? What are the Raiders doing with this signing? Some people are speculating that it's just a depth piece, maybe a rotational, maybe a second string guy. And some people are also speculating that this could actually be a starter for us. And I'm wondering, what does this look like as far as the rumors that have been circulating as far as a draft, and what's that going to mean for the offensive line? So, when we picked this guy up, he's a traditionally a center. He also plays left guard. He played left guard for the last couple of seasons, and right now we have Dylan Parham at left guard. And in college, Dylan Parham actually played right guard, and a lot of people feel like he did a lot better in that position than he does at left guard. So, if we bring in Cody Whitehair and put him in at left guard, then what we're looking at is that we can move Dylan Parham over to the right side. Now, if we're lining up, we got on the left side, we got Colton Miller, Cody Whitehair, Andre James, Dylan Parham, and Thayer Mumford. I'd say that our line looks pretty good. I like the thought of that. I like how that looks. Let me figure this out. I'm trying to. Oh, John Leon, welcome, man. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. Salute Nation. I'm trying to figure out how to do these lives, man. This is only my second time going live, so bear with me. Check out my other videos. Usually I do about 10 to 15-minute videos, but I really want to get involved with the whole, live streaming and getting in with the nation, because I really want to hear what the nation has to say on these topics. I want the feedback, and I want to be able to go off of what you guys are talking about. So if we have that line that I was just talking about with Colton Miller, Cody Whitehair, Andre James, Dylan Parham, and Thayer Mumford, it doesn't leave us too much depth. We have a little bit of depth, but honestly, I feel like this is really telling, right? Because we just, yesterday I put out a video and it was talking about a proposed trade um, by Vincent Bosnior, of us trading up to get the number 2 pick from the Commanders, right? And I don't know if that's really on the table for us or not, right? But in this trade proposal, it was talking about us trading the 2024 first and second, the 2025 first, and 2026 first and third. So if we were to move on from our first and second for this year, that would put us in a position where we're not really in prime position to be drafting the offensive tackles or guards that we might want to get in those first 2 rounds. But this also could be telling of other things, right? It could be that they're looking at hopefully being able to sit at 13 and pull Michael Penix Jr. This could mean that they're looking at cornerback. There's videos of AP meeting with Terrion Arnold from Alabama, who would be a great shutdown cornerback one for us. And so I'm really wondering what this move is really telling, right? Is it just a depth piece, or is this one of those pieces, kind of like a Greg Van Roten, where they brought him in and they thought, oh, this guy can be a good addition to the team, and then he ended up being our starter, right? And right now we don't have Greg Van Roten. It doesn't mean we can't, still sign him. From my understanding, he's still out there. If anybody knows different, let me know in the comments. But at this point, I really think that AP and Tom Telesco are not looking at drafting offensive line in the first round. Now, man, today there was a lot of content that went out. I think I had like a live marathon today. I watched Mitchell Renz, I watched Graphic Raider, I watched Wasted Talent, I watched Raider D. It's just like live after live, and some of them overlapped, man. And it was really good content, and the general consensus that I got from a lot of people, what they were sharing was that they don't really think that that this means that we're not going to draft a right tackle in the first round. Saying that maybe this regime is not convinced that Thayer Mumford can be that right tackle. And they might be right on that, but I think it really gives us options, kind of like the Garner Minshew signing. We have Garner Minshew that came in. A lot of people speculated, well, this is going to be our starter, I guess, because of what he got paid. But really, Gardner Minshew he's a veteran. He's got some good talent. He's won some games. And, I think that he's more of a contingency piece, just like if we're not able to secure a quarterback, especially one in the first round this year that we deem to be the starter right away, well, then we have Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew that can kind of battle it out, and see who becomes QB1. And then either way, we have a good backup, right? And then if we do end up drafting a quarterback in the first round, let's say we move up and we get a Jaden Daniels, or we get a Michael Penix Jr. at 13, and that ends up being our starter. Well, then we're still in a really, really good position by being able to have three really good quarterbacks on our roster. Brown, that came over from the Ravens, I don't really know that he's going to make the 53. Honestly, I think he's going to end up being a practice squad guy. And, somebody's probably going to swoop in and steal him off our practice squad, right? But maybe not. Maybe we don't draft a quarterback and we end up running forward with those three QBs on our roster. And that's always a possibility, and really, I've been putting out a lot of videos. They're talking about Jaden Daniels and how much I really want to move up and get Jaden Daniels. But I got to say, just like how AP said, is worst case scenario, we roll forward with Aiden O'Connell. And I would not be mad at that. That wouldn't piss me off at all, because Aiden O'Connell showed a lot of promise. He showed a lot of poise. The locker room says really good things about him. And I feel like he's a quarterback that, especially with the whole culture that's going on since AP came in, he won the job, got head coach. You got a lot of players that are advocating for him. Our defense is stacked. We got Christian Wilkins now, and really that D line is going to be just insane. It's going to be so fun to watch. I can't wait. And I really see that even Aiden O'Connell or Garner Minshew could take us to a good 9, 10, maybe even 11 wins, right? I could see us making a wild card under one of those quarterbacks, but I can't see either of those quarterbacks taking us to a Super Bowl, and there's the whole speculation of, oh, well, if we move up and we got a Jaden Daniels and we, sold all these draft picks, that, rookies don't really tend to take a team to the Super Bowl. And that's right, and I can't be having weird expectations that, we would go and get a quarterback out of the draft. He's going to come in his rookie season and just take us to a Super Bowl. So, I really think that there's some glimpses of that, right? CJ Stroud came in and he was able to just really ball out for the Texans rookie year. We had things like Brock Purdy, wasn't expected to play, came in and, he won every game all the way up until the national championship, in the NFC championship. He got that elbow injury, went down, they lost, right? And then the following season, he takes them all the way to the Super Bowl. Let's see. Ernest, shout out, man. Shout out. They're going defense first round. Quinion Mitchell, then O line. And honestly, I would not be upset about that at all. That's actually most of my drafts, mock drafts that I do, where I don't, look at the quarterback in the first round. Mitchell is really the guy that I like the most out of all those guys, because I mean, just 18 PBUs, insane, right? And he doesn't have a lot of picks, but I don't really think that we need a lot of picks on that side, right? Because if we get somebody that's really a shutdown, breaking up passes, in that CB1 spot, then Jack Jones is going to be the target on the other side, and he's going to get all the picks over there. Then we got Nate Hobbs, we got good safety room, and I really think that that would just make us totally stacked, and one of the things I really liked about Mitchell is his swagger, just style out there. It's like he was like, all the tape I've watched on him, he's just like kind of dominating those receivers that he's defending. Like they never stood a chance. I remember, being like a 10-year-old kid and playing basketball against my cousin who was 14 years old, right? And this dude like went on to play college basketball. And he used to just stuff the crap out of me, right? And like that's what I really was reminded of when I was watching tape on Mitchell, and so then to go with Mitchell in the first and then O line after that, like I really wouldn't be mad about it. Just because I've been over here, pounding the table for Jaden Daniels doesn't mean I'm going to be upset if we go a different route. I won't be upset if we go with a Michael Penix Jr. I won't be upset if we go with a Quinion Mitchell. The only way I'll be upset is if we ended up with another Tyree Wilson kind of pick, and I really don't see this regime doing that. Um, John Leon, man, Jordan Travis in the third round. Now, I was not even, really aware of Jordan Travis. And, if you guys look on my page, man, it says that, I'm not a football expert. I'm a Raiders fan, right? And so I don't really watch a whole lot of college football. And, Raider D started really talking about Jordan Travis a lot. And so it really got me curious and I started looking into him. And this is actually a really good prospect. And a lot of mock drafts have him going in the fourth or fifth round. And honestly, I don't feel like he's going to fall that far. A lot of these mocks are not anticipating things like the run on quarterbacks that's going to happen, because I really picture that we're going to have at least quarterbacks go in the top 10, because there's going to be Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels and Drake May, maybe not even in that order, right? And then we got Michael Penix, JJ McCarthy. There's a lot of hype around these guys right now. So boom, you got 5 quarterbacks off the board. After those 5 quarterbacks, there's not even really much to look at past that, right? Because then you got Bo Nix, right? And some people are saying first round, some people are saying second round for Bo Nix. Some people are saying that he's really, really good and maybe comps to Justin Herbert. Other people are saying things like Jimmy Garoppolo, right? So I've kind of seen both. And then, after that, you got Spencer Rattler and Jordan Travis. And really, there's not even another quarterback that I would even consider, right? And if you guys got quarterbacks you got an eye on that really aren't on anybody's radar, let me know in the chat, because I love to just look at players that, aren't on people's radar and check them out, because those are those sneaky pickups that we can get. And I love watching the tape on these guys, if we can find it. All right. Raider Nation Jason, man. Salute True Raider. Awesome, man. I'm glad you're here. Glad you found me, man. I'm glad we signed a good GC. Now we can draft some weapons. Yeah, man. So like, he's a guard center. He started off center, but really moved into left guard. And, I really like the kind of moves that we've been seeing this team make. There's some really good little tiny building that doesn't seem like these huge splash moves, right? And really, Tom Telesco came in and he made his huge splash by getting Christian Wilkins. And then when he picked up Garner Minshew, I think everybody went, what? Wait, what do you mean Minshew mania? Why are we getting Uncle Rico? Right? Because like for me, that made me believe like, oh man, maybe we're not gonna draft a quarterback, and maybe we're just gonna settle. But really, I was talking about it earlier that he's that contingency piece in case we're not able to get the quarterback of the future. Then we roll forward with Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew, and that's a win-win. Both of these quarterbacks are very capable of winning games. I'm really more curious to see out of Aiden O'Connell because we really don't know what we have there. A lot of quarterbacks don't really fully develop into the quarterback that they're going to be, until a couple of seasons, right? And if he's not getting that playing time, then I really don't think that he's going to be, able to show us what he truly has. Shout out to you, Jason. Shout out, man. Ernest, Jordan Travis, maybe later rounds. We need to also look at the D line, McKinley Jackson and Leonard Taylor, third to fifth rounds. Neither of these guys have been on my radar at all. I know that there is some good defensive linemen. Today on the presser, Max Crosby was giving a shout out to Fisk, Braden Fisk, and he was also giving a shout out to Lat 2, right? And he kind of like threw that one in there because I think he knows that we're not going to go Lat 2 in the first round, right? And he might not even still be there by the time we pick at 13 if we stay that long. But yeah, I really could see us adding more depth to this defensive line room. And, some people are really against that right now because we're pretty stacked, right? But just because we're stacked right now doesn't mean that that's going to be the future for us. Adam Butler and John Jenkins are both on a 1-year deal. Next year, Malcolm Koonce is coming up on a contract year. And if we don't lock him down right now and pay the man, he's going to probably have this huge breakout year. He had 8 sacks in the last 9 games, right? Correct me if I'm wrong on that. He just really balled out at the end of last season. And if he continues that momentum, I mean, he's really going to be looking at a big contract, and it's not really set in stone that we're going to be able to keep him. We already got a lot of money on the other side of the defensive line with Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins. I don't know that we'd be in a position to pay a Malcolm Koonce, and we might want to start bringing people in. We got Tyree Wilson to rotate there, but it's really not very clear right now if he's going to end up moving to the interior like he did on a lot of snaps, or if he's going to really work his way into being that outside that can replace Malcolm Koonce. Either way, I don't think that John Jenkins and Adam Butler have a whole lot of time, left in the tank. These guys are getting older. I think John Jenkins is like 34. I mean, I'm 35, man. I can't even imagine trying to get out there on a football field. You see a lot of people on social media that's like, put me in, coach, and it's like, dude, that's not going to be me, man. I'm not taking a hit from these big old guys, man. I'm not there in my life. Oh, excuse me. Let's see. The O linemen. Yeah, there's a boatload of O linemen throughout this draft who fit from 3 to 7th round. And the more and more mocks I do, because there's these O linemen that I see that are like, I've heard people mention, right? And so then like I start watching some stuff on them, and some of them it's hard to find some breakdowns. I don't have access to all 22. I'm just getting started on my page. I only got like 250 subs. Speaking of which, if you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button. It's free to you, and it may not make a huge difference in your life, but it's going to make a huge difference in mine. Let's get this out more. Let's let this channel grow. These O linemen, like, there's some of them that I see going even later, right? We got what's his name from Notre Dame? I can't think of his name right now. There's a tackle from Notre Dame that I keep seeing that pops up usually around the 3rd round in mocks. There's Rosengarten from Washington, which a lot of people are saying he's probably going to move into guard when he gets to NFL. And there's some of these guys that we can pick up a little bit later on. And one of the things that I started looking at was doing some mock drafts, because I put out that video yesterday where I was talking about the trade proposal where we would move on from our 1st and 2nd this year for next year, and 2026 1st and 3rd, right? And so I started looking at mocks, like, what if we did this trade, and what is it going to actually look like for us if we don't have a 2nd round pick this year, right? Because when you talk about 3 first rounders, you're talking about this year's 1st rounder being a swap. So it's really not nearly as pricey as what it sounds. but it still is, right? And so if we swap that out, not having that second round pick, there's a lot of good players in that second round that's just like, man, like we're missing there, right? But there's a lot of good O linemen in the third round. There's a lot of good corners. Max Melton is one of the guys I got my eyes on right now. Um, there's a lot of good talent both on the offensive line and the cornerback room uh, in these, third, fourth, fifth, sixth round. And actually one of the guys I got my eyes on is I forget where he plays, man, Watson. I was looking at this linebacker, man, and he had 10 sacks, right? And like 10 sacks for a linebacker, and he keeps getting projected. Like every mock I do, he's out in the seventh round. Like that's a little insane to me, right? How are you going to have 10 sacks and be out there in the seventh round, right? And I haven't been able to find any tape breakdown on this guy. So if you guys, know of this guy Watson, linebacker, I want to say it's Florida, but I might be off on that, man. Shoot it to me, man. My email, actually, I'll throw my email in the chat. I keep forgetting to put it in the description. It's trueraider27@gmail.com. So if you guys see any tape on this guy, let me know, or any other tape you want me to check out, or you can just email me like with thoughts or things that you want me to talk about. I'm always open to suggestion. So if Wilson has injury problems, then Taylor fits as his backup. Age. So I assume you're talking about Tyree Wilson, right? And Tyree Wilson, he came in and he was injured. He wasn't fully healed, and that was kind of like a risk that they took with drafting him at number 7. So he came in with that foot injury, and he really didn't get to do camps fully. He didn't really get up to NFL speed, and that really showed because he got thrown in there because of the whole Chandler Jones thing, right? If Chandler Jones hadn't just gone off his rocker and had actually, stuck around and played, then we would have seen a whole different Tyree Wilson development, right? Because he would have been able to be behind Chandler Jones. You would have been able to learn some stuff from him. He wouldn't have been forced into so many snaps. And it really, it really put him in a position to look bad. He was slow off the line. His stats weren't showing up. He wasn't showing up. But as the year progressed, you could see that he was feeling healthier, that he was getting up to NFL speed, and he was really getting that confidence behind him. Right? And I really like to see that out of players, right? Where they're just willing to put in that work, and no matter what social media is saying, whatever the national media is saying, like they just show up and they put in that work no matter what's happening. So another thing I wanted to talk about was Devante Adams. And I'm gonna try this out, man. I'm gonna share the screen on this video. Hopefully I don't get dinged for it. We'll see how that goes. So it's Devante Adams on his commitment to the Raiders, right? And I think most people have seen this clip, but I'm gonna play it real quick. All right, here we go.
Talking about taking out of context, misconstruing. A lot of people just assumed for you that you were going to want out at some point. Like, was that? Well, I guess what was in your mind? Was there ever any fluctuation in your dedication to this franchise?
I mean, I would say I ever wanted to be gone. If I wanted to be gone, I'd be gone by now. So I picked to come here. This is where I want to be. And obviously, if you're not winning and things are not going the way you want, you either want to see things change to get in the right direction, or something else is going to change. So I don't want to go anywhere. I want to be a Raider. So hopefully that answers everyone's question.
What are your thoughts on the additions of Christian Wilkins and also Gardner Minshew coming in all season and quick acquisition?
Yeah, man.
See, and this whole thing, I think it's a weird narrative, right? Of like they keep saying Devante wants out, and he's not saying that. In fact, he's standing firm and saying, no, this is where I want to be. And yeah, he's shown some frustration, and he's gotten pissed off a little bit here and there, and I could see why the speculation is there, right? But the speculation is that he wants to go to the Jets, right? And there's a couple reasons he came to the Raiders, right? Is that he didn't know how long Aaron Rodgers was going to be in the league. He wanted to get out of the cold. and he wanted to get off the East Coast. He wanted to come to the West Coast, be closer to the family. That way, family can come out to games. He's got some family that they don't like to fly, so they could drive out and see his games and stuff. So it's kind of nonsense for this narrative that he wants to go to the Jets. Now, I could see where the Jets might want to bring him in, but honestly, I don't see them being in a position to make that kind of move. I really don't, man. And not to mention, if we were to trade Devante Adams right now, we would get a huge dead cap hit. And why are we going to, do ourselves like that unless Devante Adams was trying to force himself out? But he's really not, and that video shows it. So yeah, this whole narrative with Devante Adams is a little weird to me. I've seen some people talking about that we should package him in order to move up. That way we could draft Jaden Daniels, but it doesn't make sense to me to go ahead and move on from our best wide receiver to go get the quarterback that he's saying that he wants us to go get. It's like it doesn't make sense to me. Not to mention, like right now, our wide receiver room is looking kind of shallow, right? Especially without Devante Adams, it's looking pretty rough, right? Because we got some good tight ends, right? We got Michael Mayer and we got Harrison Bryant that just came in. He's a good blocking tight end, and then we got Trey Tucker, right? We got Jacoby Myers, we got Christian Wilkinson. That's really confusing, right? You got Christian Wilkins and Christian Wilkinson. And then what? We don't have Hunter Renfrow anymore. We don't who's he gonna go to? Oh, we got DJ Turner, right? So really we're starting to kind of lack in our wide receiver room a little bit, and I'm not liking how that's looking. So to move on, some people are saying package Jacoby Myers. I think we need him, and there's some good wide receivers throughout several rounds of this draft. But you bring in a rookie wide receiver and you don't really know exactly how that's going to turn out. They could have pretty big breakout years right away, but they could, be adjusting to NFL speed and have drops or running missed routes and things like that. Ernest, so if we keep grabbing all linemen in free agency, then CB Mitchell, DT Brisk could happen realistically. Yeah. Yes, Wilson can rise up now with Max and Wilkins bringing him up. Right on, True Raider podcast. Shout out to you, man. I'm glad you're here. So, yeah, this is a big one, right? There's still a lot of people out there in free agency. Trenton Reisner is out there. In the CB room. Stephon Gilmore is still out there. There's what's his name? Jackson he was on the Giants. I think he's still available. So there's still some cornerbacks available. Xavier Howard from the Dolphins, he's available, right? And maybe some of these guys are kind of older, are not really locked down corner ones, but I really feel like part of what's happening is that teams are just kind of sitting on these guys because the longer they sit in the free agency pool, the cheaper they get. So if their price starts going down and down and down, why are we going to jump them early and go pay more? It could be that we even wait until after the draft, see what comes out of the draft, and then pick them up then. Excuse me. Man, my throat's hitting me. So, yeah, I don't really see why we can pick up more talent in free agency, and when it comes to Brisk, man, I couldn't even imagine if we added Brisk to this defensive tackle room. I think that would just be menacing. Sorry about that. I think our defensive line would just be insane, right? Because we wouldn't really have to have him as a every down starter. He could really come in and learn behind, Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins, John Jenkins, Adam Butler, and even Malcolm Kuhn. All these guys have a lot of good experience to offer this guy, and just kind of come in on a couple snaps here and there and really get up to NFL speed, really, get that proper development, right? And I think too often, we see players get drafted sometimes in the third, fourth round, and they're really not up to NFL speed, and they get thrown in as a starter just because there's lack of depth, or they're a better player than anybody else that's on the roster at that position. And so they really get put in a spot where things just don't really shake out very good for them. I think that we saw a lot of that with Jacorian Bennett, and that's something that's getting overlooked a lot in our corner room is that we have Brandon Faison and we have Jacorian Bennett, right? Faison was really good. I don't know why they moved on from him, but then he came back. Then he was out last year with an injury, and we'll see kind of if he's fully healed from that and how things go moving forward for him. But then we got Jacorian Bennett, right? He's coming into his second season, and he got thrown out there as a starter year one, his fourth round pick. And I think it was really difficult for him to get up to speed. And then, there was some calls that kind of went weird that were on him that really, I think, shook his confidence a lot, right? And then he ended up, kind of getting mostly benched for the second half of the season. And a lot of people took that as a sign of, oh, Jacorian Bennett ain't it. He's not him. We're gonna move on from him, all these things. But really, I think that Patrick Graham was able to take a look at this situation and say this guy needs to sit for a little bit and really develop, right? And take that time to really develop Jacorian Bennett. He could come out this year and really have a breakout season. I watched a lot of his college tape right after we had drafted him, because there was a lot of people last year in the draft that I was like, who is that? And so then I'm like watching some tape trying to figure out who is this guy. He was really doing great. He came from Georgia, I believe, right? Georgia. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, right? But he really had a lot of speed. He had some good picks. He had some good breakups. He had some good coverage. And really, I was excited because I felt like we got a steal of a deal for getting him in the fourth round. So then to watch him get to the NFL and just kind of not, the tape didn't translate. It was a little bit upsetting. But I really think that we don't lack. What we lack in is depth, right? A lot of people are saying, oh, we got all these holes. We can't trade up, and we can't be focused on quarterback. And, we got to fill these holes. And honestly, I don't really see the holes, right? Right now, we're just talking about it. Quarterback one, which, I just talked about two players that, can rotate on that spot if that's what it comes down to. I'd love to see an upgrade. Let's see, we got our defensive line is stacked. Our linebacker room could maybe use a little bit of help. I mean, Robert Spillane really showed out and overly impressed. I didn't think that he was going to really do all of that, right? Now you're not overloading the show. In fact, we're not getting enough comments, man. So it's great for you to be commenting anything that comes to mind, man. Hit it up. It'll help it in the algorithm. And honestly, give me something to talk with you about, right? Because I could just kind of spin on the same topic over and over and over. But yeah, I was talking about Robert Spillane, right? And we got Robert Spillane he's a great linebacker. And then we got Divine Diablo, who, I think that he's been improving every year. He's not quite where we need him to be, but I think that he is a great linebacker, and I would not be upset if we move forward with him as a starter. And then we got Luke Masterson and Amari Burney, right? And Masterson and Amari Burney both showed some good promise, but I could see where we could use some improvement in that room. And then our safeties, I think our safeties are great. We got Trayvon Merrick, we got Marcus Epps, we got Isaiah Paul-Mao, and Chris Smith. We didn't really see much of Chris Smith at all. In his tape, I saw some really good tape on him, and so I was excited about that safety pickup. And then really, they didn't really play him, and I think that a lot of that is because Trayvon Merrick and Marcus Epps really just turned to be a great duo, and there wasn't much need to play him yet, especially to let him sit and develop like how we've been talking about, right? Then if we go to the offensive side of the ball, we got our tight end room is doing great. Our wide receivers, I was talking about our wide receivers already. We were kind of lacking in that department. I could see us maybe picking up one or two extra guys just to have some depth pieces in there. and maybe they might even be looking at picking up a wide receiver too and moving Jacoby Myers to the slot. Or, I know Devante Adams played in the slot a lot with Green Bay. When Luke Getsy was coaching over there in Green Bay with Devante Adams. So I could see him getting moved into the slot a lot. Our running back room, I think our running back room is doing great. We got Amir Abdullah. He's a great third down back. We got Alexander Madison, who's, he can catch balls and get good yardage on that. And he can also run the ball down people's throat. And then we got Zamir White, right? And Zamir White, he really looked like like he wasn't going to pan out at first, right? He was struggling to get past the line of scrimmage. He was fumbling balls. And I was getting kind of a little worried about that. And then Josh Jacobs went out with that injury, and Zamir White showed up. And then what? We got our quarterback room is pretty good. We got AOC and we got Gardner Minshew. And then our offensive line, which we just picked up a free agent. And so, there's not really holes, right? There's places where we could sure improve, but I don't see these glaring holes where it's like, man, if we move forward with this player in that position, it's going to, that's where people are going to pick us apart, and that's where we're going to lose games. I don't really see that. I really think that adding an elite quarterback to the squad that we currently have puts us in position where we can make a good playoff run, or maybe win a playoff game for once, right? I mean, geez, I haven't seen us win a playoff game in so long. It's like I don't even remember what that feels like. This is getting a little crazy out here, man. Micah Parsons, man, that definitely is a dream. Micah Parsons, I think that not only the price tag on him, but the draft capital that we would have to move in order to get him puts us in a really shaky position, man. And we really don't know what Malcolm Kuntz is going to be this year. And it could be that he shows out like Micah Parsons, right? But, when you have a proven player, to put him on the opposite, like Max Crosby, and then with Christian Wilkins in the middle, I mean, we're talking, that's just Madden right there, right? But it would be so fun to watch. And I wouldn't be upset if we did that. I really wouldn't, unless it costs us too much. I would have to see what draft compensation for that would be. Let's see what we got here. Rice and McCaffrey. Those are two of the guys I've been kind of looking at. I didn't really find any tape on McCaffrey. I saw some highlights. And Rice, I mean, being that he is Jerry Rice's son, he's been playing. Let's just face it. When you got a player that's coming in that's the son of an NFL legend, that means that he has the support, he has the knowledge, and he has the funding to be able to be an elite athlete in the NFL. So you take somebody like that and put him onto a team that his dad used to play for, right? And that was one of the things, that got me into being a Raider fan, right? Is because I used to just follow players. I remember I was like 14 years old, and Jerry Rice came over to the Raiders, and that year was like rough, man. I was really going through some hard times with my family. Honestly, my dad put a gun to my head and kicked me out of the house while he was drunk. And I ended up staying at my friend's house, and his family took me in. And during that time, they had found out that I was sleeping in the park. And so they brought me into their house, and, they were all huge Raider fans, right? His family had come out here from Los Angeles, and they were just huge Raider fans. And I loved just sitting there, with the family and watching the game, man. And it was such an exciting time for me because I felt welcomed, I felt wanted. And then the tuck roll happened, man. And then the tuck roll, I had some deep-seated resentments from that tuck roll, man. And then to go on and watch Gruden beat us in the Super Bowl, man, that was some harsh times, and really ever since then, it's just been like pretty hit or miss. And, and as the years went by, it's like I slowly got myself into being that that fan that just kind of, oh, if it's on national television, I'll watch it. And then I just watch the highlights and look at the stats and, you know, and that's where I was as a fan, you know. And then I started working in a jail in 2020, and you know there was a whole COVID lockdown, and things got really weird, and they had us like, you know, sitting at desks. You know, I'm not a corrections officer. I work in another department, but they just had us sitting in these desks in the back of the jail, and there wasn't a whole lot to do because they're limiting contact, you know. And so I'm like scrolling through YouTube trying to figure out something to do because they can't have your phone in the jail. And you know, I came across Graphic Raider, man, and Graphic Raider just really he lit that fire for me. To where my passion for the Raiders really just came back, man, and I stopped being a highlight reel fan and really started getting back into the roster and back into actually watching games. And now I'm just like I'm stuck, man. You know, I'm like, you know, I was talking about earlier, I've watched 4 different live shows today. You know, when the game comes on, I'm like an every down kind of guy. I'm not just kind of like, oh, let's see, oh, there was a big play. Like I'm in it, I'm invested, you know. And it's really exciting to me, man. I got kind of sidetracked on that one, man, but glad you guys are bearing with me. So AP has gotten rid of some of those holes. Now we're building the correct way. And that's a big argument for, you know, being able to pick up a right tackle early on, or you know, one of the lockdown corners, and being able to build in the trenches. You know, if we lock down some of these spots that are kind of question marks where we have decent players but we could end up with a superstar talent, you know, there, our future superstar talent rather, I can't argue against that, because you fill up those positions with really just stout players, and you roll forward with Aiden O'Connell and Garner Minshew's there in case he really just doesn't show out the way we need him to. Honestly, I'd be pretty happy with that. But I feel like that is settling in the quarterback department, right? And if we settle at quarterback, I think it really just translates all the way down the line, you know. And you know, AP, he said some really good things about Aiden O'Connell, and Tom Telesco was I guess that there's a report now, or rumors, I guess, where Tom Telesco really likes Aiden O'Connell and wants to roll forward with him, right? And you know, even though AP talked really good about Aiden O'Connell, the fact that he's like making it very clear that he wants to move up and get a quarterback, I think it says a lot. And I don't think it says that AP is just totally out on Aiden O'Connell, right? Because he said everything has to go through him. It's his job to lose. But I don't blame him for wanting to go get his guy, right? He was part of recruiting Jaden Daniels to Arizona State. He knew he was going to be a Heisman winner. He went out and he won that. He gave a shout out to AP and Marvin Lewis, our assistant head coach, in his Heisman Trophy speech. And I don't blame him for just really believing in that that's his guy, and thinking that if he goes out and gets him, that there's going to be some success there. And I honestly believe that there will be some success there, right? Like if Jaden Daniels, let's say the Commanders don't get him, and then the Patriots don't want to move on, right, from that pick, and Patriots draft Jaden Daniels at number 3. I don't think that Jaden Daniels will have nearly the impact that he would if he got drafted by the Raiders, or even if he got drafted by the Commanders. I feel like those are 2 pretty decent landing spots for him. Us being good and them being decent, right? But if he lands the Patriots, they really don't have a supporting cast around him, and I don't really see that shaking out very good for Jaden Daniels. And there's too many quarterbacks, you know, I call it the Justin Fields effect, right? Where you bring in this, you know, number 2 quarterback, you put him on a really shitty roster. And then this shitty roster can't support him. You don't have good offensive line. You don't have good receivers. And you put this guy in a position to fail. And then the future drafts after that, well, especially if you had to trade to move up, then you spend draft capital. But let's say you didn't spend draft capital. Then the next couple of drafts, you're bringing in pieces and you're building your roster. And it usually takes about 3 or 4 years. They start building up their roster. And then all of a sudden they're put in a position where it's like, well, now we got to give this quarterback a big contract, or we can move on from him, draft another quarterback, and then just keep that cycle going, right? Get one on the cheap. And so by doing that, I think that that's what would happen to Jaden Daniels if he landed with the Patriots. Now, if he lands with us, I think it's very clear what I believe. Let me know what you believe. Let me see what else we got going on. Ernest, the Bloodline draft Rice, McCaffrey, Frank Gore. Yeah. There's a few more. Raider family supports each other from beginning to end. Yeah, man. And Frank Gore Jr. is really like projected in a lot of mocks to be going like in the 7th round, 6th or 7th round. And honestly, if we can pick him up at that spot, I say we do it. I don't know if we're going to draft a running back this year. Some people are saying that we will, but I'm not really entirely convinced. There's a lot of good running backs at pretty much every level of this draft. And if they stay available, I don't think it would hurt to go out and get one. I believe Alexander Madison is on a 2-year deal. So you bring one in, kind of get him up to NFL speed. There we go. Player development again, right? You roll forward with Zamir White and Alexander Madison. And if that duo isn't working out in some way, one of them is kind of flopping or both of them, hopefully not. Knock on wood, right? Then all of a sudden you have a rookie that's already on your roster, that's already been able to develop a little bit, has been in training camp, has learned the plays, is familiar with the line, all that stuff. And so it would be a good idea for us to pick up a running back, but I don't know how high of a pick that we're going to spend on that. I really like Ray Davis. Graphic Raider kept talking about this guy, and I was like, man, he's really projected to go like 3rd round. And I don't know we should spend 3rd round pick on a running back, right? And so I started watching some tape on him, and this guy is a dog, man. I mean, if that talent transfers over to the NFL level, like I would not be mad at all if we spend a 3rd round pick on this guy, because he's going to be a difference maker on the field. And I mean, especially if Zamir White does turn out to be a really good running back. Pair him with another good running back, right? Then you switch up, confuse defenses, change of speed, fresh legs. Somebody gets injured, there's a lot of possibilities there. And I think it's important to kind of cover these. I've been glued to the tube since 63 with the Raiders tape, man. Wow, since 63, huh? There we go, man. Would stay up to 11 o'clock to watch those games. And that's exciting, man. That's a long time. I've only been a Raiders fan since 2001, and I guess that's like 23 years at this point. Jeez, time kind of goes. But like, man, since 63, you got to see some of those really, really great games that honestly I don't know nearly enough about. And that's really where we got established in, the commitment to excellence, right? And I would really, really, really love to see us go back to that. Right now with AP as head coach, this is the most hope I think I've had for the Raiders ever since we lost in the Super Bowl to the Bucks, man. You know what? There was that year Derek Carr broke his leg, in the last game of the season. I still remember, man, I was at my wife's grandparents' house and we were watching the game, and it was just devastating to watch that happen and just know that like what could have been, and he was just never the same after that, I mean, there were talks of him maybe even being MVP that year, and then for him to break his leg and then come back, and just he lost a lot from his game at that point. I think he was afraid to run the ball after that. He was afraid to take hits. You'd see him, they rush in on him, and he would just cup the ball and brace for it, where other quarterbacks would, fight their way out. That's one of the things I love about Justin Herbert, right? And I'm not really a Justin Herbert fan. Some people are talking about trying to trade for him, and I think that's a really bad idea. He's a good quarterback, but he's way too expensive. But something I always see when we play them is that you'll have, Max Crosby or somebody, they're taking him down for a sec and he's still fighting them and still gets the ball off as he's going down, and it's just like, and it's not even like in a sloppy way. Like, there was one sack where Aiden O'Connell tried to do that and he threw a pick. It's like in a very controlled way that's just like he's like a beast, like he's strong and hard to take down. And I would love for us to get a quarterback like that. And I don't think that Jaden Daniels is really that, right? Because Jaden Daniels, he's a very thin frame. And if you look at the height and weight of other quarterbacks in the NFL, he's not much different from them, right? I think he could use a good 10 pounds, but really it's just like something about the way his frame is built. He's just very thin, and the dude can take a hit. There's this highlight reel I saw on Facebook where it was like the only bad thing about Jaden Daniels is that when he gets hit, he looks like a Looney Tunes character. And they just showed him like hit after hit after hit and like putting himself in very vulnerable positions. And I think that if AP were to go out and get his guy, bring Jaden Daniels in, I think that he'd be in a position where he'd be able to learn how to have some more discernment in that department, right? Like when to go ahead and stay and make the throw instead of running, when to slide instead of taking the hit, when to run out of bounds. He doesn't have to go out there and play hero ball um, and get himself in this weird mess. That just reminded me, right? Speaking of hero ball, Drake May, right? And there's very little talk of Drake May going number 2 anymore, right? And he was really projected to go number 2 like all year long. And Jaden Daniels didn't really climb the ladder until after he won the Heisman Trophy. And then all of a sudden everybody is, oh, Jaden Daniels, yeah. Oh, AP said Jaden Daniels, and everybody jumped on that train, right? But one of the things that I saw today, I can't even remember where I saw it. They were talking about Drake May. It might have been Rich Eisen. Anyway, they're talking about Drake May and how last year, the year that he did a lot better in college, he was actually playing under air raid offense, which is what the Commanders are going to be running, right? And so, like, part of me feels like there's a lot of smoke going on with the Commanders where they're hyping up different players because they're trying to see how much, of how much teams are really willing to trade to get up to that number 2 spot. And I think that they're really baiting us because they keep talking about Jaden Daniels, and it's kind of weird for a team to talk that highly of a player that the draft's not even here yet. They might talk up Jaden Daniels so much that the Bears, that's our guy, and they go out and get him, which that could be their plan. They might be trying to hype up Jaden Daniels so the Bears want him, so that way they could get Caleb Williams. And really, that's the whole thing about this time of year is it's lying season. All you hear is all this smoke and all these reports and all this, gossip and rumors. And, most of it is just made up that way people can get clicks, and that's something that, I really don't believe in, yeah, of course you got to put the thumbnail and the title as something that people are going to be interested in, right? But like I see so many videos out there that are just flat out clickbait where they're saying that there's this big move and it's like, oh man, what happened? You click on it and then they're just talking about something else. And it's like, are they ever going to get to what the big move? And then the video ends. And it's like, oh, there was no big move. It was just clickbait. And that honestly, I don't really respect that, man. Nap time. Keep up the great work. Aloha. Awesome, Ernest. Yeah, I gotta get back to my family, man. I've worked a 10-hour shift today, 2 hours of commuting, and then you know, I gotta go play with my son, man. He's 8 years old. I want to talk about this real quick if you're still in the building. I think the Coliseum was built in either 63 or 66. You're 70 years old, and it's hard to remember anymore. I've got good stories about players who used to come out to our ranch and wrestle cattle. Man, that is amazing. I really hope that you can continue to show up and share some of these stories with us. I'm really interested to learn more about those kind of experiences. I spent a lot of time with my grandpa, and spending time with my grandma was one of the most important things to me because he'd always tell me all these stories of things that used to happen, right? Way before I was born. And a lot of the things that he taught me during that time were some of the most valuable life lessons that I use in my life today. He passed away in 2007, and he still, man, he's so close to my heart. So thank you, Ernest, for sharing that. I really appreciate you being around, my friend. So really, I think that's all I got for tonight, man. We're coming up on an hour. Shout out to everybody who made it to live. If you're not on the live, let me know in the comments what you think, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.